Shalom, Alon.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Okay, yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, thank God.
So?
Well, I guess, this is the first time that we're kind of sitting down to chat a little bit. Talk about Shakuf, talk about the organization, a little bit what's going on here. So, first of all, tell me a little bit, again, remind me where you came from, how did you come to Israel? I mean, I know you made Aliyah.
Yeah. We're both from the same kind of history, right? We were not born in Israel.
That's true.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
yes, yeah.
Okay, so, and I'll make it short. I was born in Israel, believe it or not, 63 years ago.
Okay.
So you know how old I am.
I'm going to do some calculations. Tough. Okay.
You're good in math.
Yeah.
I was born in a kibbutz here in Israel.
Oh, wow.
My parents are Holocaust survivors, which is an interesting time to talk about it this week.
Yeah.
And I was raised here in Israel until the age of 15. Then my family immigrated to Canada. So basically, I've been away from Israel for most of my life. I lived in...
I don't know if this is important, but Canada is not America.
It's not?
Because there's United States, and then there's Canada. I just wanted to make sure that we're...
North America.
Oh, North America.
In North America.
Okay.
So, grew up, studied, got married, all in Toronto. All my kids, I have 8 kids.
Oh my gosh.
They were all
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
8 kids?
8 kids.
Wow.
They were all born in Toronto. And I lived there for 33 years. Did my... okay, we started here, not in a religious home. My parents, God forbid not to judge them, after the Holocaust decided that there is no God. And that's how I was raised. I was raised in a totally secular home. Didn't have a bar mitzvah.
No, nothing.
First time I went up to the Torah, I was 40 years old.
Oh my God.
I had my bar mitzvah when I was 40, and that's when I started my tshuva process in Toronto.
It sounds like it was even not religious, not maybe anti-religious.
Yeah, there was anti-religious. I always kind of saw, religious, black, pious, all this was like, whoa, not for me. I think living in Israel for 15 years, I was in Jerusalem maybe once or twice. It wasn't for me.
Amazing.
We lived along the beaches all the time, and my life was totally not connected to this world. And but yet inside there was always a seek. I was seeking spirituality, seeking philosophy. I don't know. That's the kind of character I am. And
thinker.
A thinker. I figured there's more to life than what I experienced physically. I do remember, although it contradicted everything my family was thinking about or taught us, that I knew inside that there is God, and I was really afraid of the fact. I had a fear of God. I remember that from an early age, that I had believed that there is God. And
wow.
I didn't know what it is. I never knew how to interpret that feeling, and it was kind of secretive within me. I never talked about it because there was nobody to talk about it in my family or even in my
you mentioned the word God.
It was like you don't talk about it. I had a sense, but I couldn't put it into words with anybody that I grew up with.
Wow.
And then in Toronto, at one point it was amazing, but coincidentally we fell into a lecture one day when I was around 39, 40 years old. That had to do with spirituality from Judaism. And I said, wow, in Judaism there's also spirituality, because in my interpretation, Judaism was only keeping mitzvot and, and payas and praying, but that's no sweetness, no spirituality. That's how I experienced people that I knew, or that's my interpretation of what Judaism was. And then this lecture kind of changed my perception of what Judaism could be.
You mentioned an interesting word. You said the word sweetness.
Yeah. Sweet, because I interpret religious as something not sweet, something harsh. Keeping mitzvot, putting tree, that was like, that's how I understood, that's how I grew up. Religiosity is something harsh, something fearful, something demanding, something not comfortable. That was my picture of how, what a Jew is.
I'm just sitting,
a practicing Jew is.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, also, in terms of, my own kind of going through everything, and getting to this point, that sweetness of being closer to Hashem, being closer to God. It seems like something obvious.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. That was my that wasn't my experience of watching what I did watch. Very little of I don't know. There was this understanding that I grew up with, that religiosity is something harsh, not sweet, demanding, depressing in a way.
Right, who wants
Nobody
that?
looks happy,
Right.
So then we fell into this lecture, and there was something very sweet about it, and we decided to enroll into this program.
Just like that?
Yeah, just let's learn a little more about it.
You and your wife?
Me and my wife. We took it together, and we both felt the same thing about it.
Amazing.
And we said, wow, there's sweetness also in Judaism. That was our conclusion. It's not only in Buddhism and Hinduism and all the other isms that we did explored, not deeply, but just lightly. But there's also something that could be sweet within our own religion. And we said, let's.
Amazing.
So we enrolled into this, and it was a very long process. Our tshuva, I think it took us like 3 years before we even kept Shabbat. But we started experiencing Judaism slowly, but in a sweet way. Anyways, that's.
So I mean, fast forward. Obviously, here you are.
Fast forward.
You. I mean, it's fascinating. We could listen to this for a long time. And you've gotten into Judaism. You and your wife, and your eight kids. I mean,
8 kids.
At the age of 40, they're all there, right?
What do you mean, the age?
All of your kids were by that time you'd had all of your children?
No.
Not yet.
No. We had 5 at that stage.
Okay, 5 kids,
5 kids.
Family in Toronto. You're successful in your business, and how do you show up in a Breslov website? Where does that come from?
Amazing.
Right.
Good question.
I mean, we have to get there.
Yeah. So it took us. Let me see, 16 plus maybe 2, probably 17 years of going and kind of trying to find what path of Judaism fits us, because there's so many ways of practicing.
Sure.
And it was in Los Angeles. I lived in Toronto for 33 years, and then we moved to LA because of business, because of other reasons.
Weather
was horrible in Toronto, and LA is perfect. Anyways, we moved there, and there, for the first time in a little community that we were introduced to the idea. Actually, somebody told us, why don't you do? This is 18 years after kind of searching all kinds of. Why don't you go to Uman for Rosh Hashanah?
Huh?
I said, where is Uman?
Right.
He said, look at the map in Russia. Somewhere there's an Uman. I said, what do you do in Uman? He said, Rabbi Nachman. I said, many people go there. Anyways, I don't know why, but I think this little community kind of talked to my, and I said, let me investigate this, because I was in a time where I needed a change. It was so I called my brother-in-law who lived in Israel, and he told me, you know what, it's a good idea. I've been there once. It's a very fascinating experience. Why don't you go? I said, okay. How do I get there? Or what do I do when I get there? He said, well, there's a group from Israel that's called Varim.
Oh my God.
And call them up,
Right.
and at least you have a place where you can sleep and pray and eat. I said, okay. And
I mean, something doesn't, I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit. The guy, you know, professional, with the whole family, all of a sudden one day says, would you like to go to Oman?
Yeah, it's totally coincidental.
Does it make any sense?
No, it made no sense. And I went there totally unprepared to what I'm going to experience in Oman. I went with a big suitcase. I thought I'm going to like a, you know, Four Seasons hotel, a golf club. I brought a hanger, you know, with my suits, with, you know, like, it was
don't try this at home.
Yeah, don't try it at home. Anyways, I'll tell you the truth, that when I got there, I went with two friends from Beverly Hills. You know, we're coming, you know, with it was an amazing experience because my two friends, after 2 days, ran away. The first flight after Rosh Hashanah, they said, it's not for us, we're going. And I don't know, I have this thing that when I start something, I need to finish. It's like also from my architecture years. Okay. After 2 years in architecture, I knew I'm not going to practice architecture, but I need to finish my degree. So it's something that, anyway, so I needed to stay. Stay in Oman after that, and because it continued into the Baal Shem Tov trip on Shabbat and all this. Oh my gosh! So Oman itself was a very harsh experience for me, but Baal Shem Tov was nice. It was like I don't know. I felt very good there. Peaceful, but I came home kind of mixed feelings. You know, it didn't mean anything to me. It didn't do anything for me. But I met a few nice people. By the way, I met Eran there, and I met
Eran Raz, the head of Levad
Dvorim, and a bunch of people, maybe 80, 90 people that came from Levad Dvorim. And I came back to LA.
I have to ask you. I have to ask you. I mean, you know, just they say, you know, people talk about going to Oman. They talk about going to Rabbi Nachman, and you know, your story is like, you know, 1 in 1,000. It's like, you know, was there something unique that you felt when you went there? Or it was just
zero.
Nothing.
Interesting. I felt nothing. I felt actually, what I did feel is kidney stones. I had an attack of kidney stones on Rosh Hashanah in Oman. It was like I was in a lot of pain. I don't know how, but somehow later on I heard that, you know, everybody that comes to Oman has to experience some sort of a tikkun.
Right.
It was in Oman I was suffering. So on top of not really feeling comfortable with the whole scene, and I'm not crazy about a lot of people being together, and it's very crowded.
Right.
And Oman conditions are not Beverly Hill conditions. Anyways, but I did come home, and the miracle took place maybe 2-3 months later.
Okay.
And this is
miracle.
A miracle.
A miracle.
And a miracle. And the miracle might not sound to you like a miracle, but for me it was a miracle. After living in the Galut for 40 years exactly, one day, one morning, looking out, at that time we were looking to move to another house. We had enough from our house, we wanted something else. Anyways, I found a nice house, and I told my wife, I found the perfect house, let's go see it. She said, you know what, I don't feel like going to see it. I said, we're looking for a house. This is perfect. It's exactly the same size, direction, a swimming pool, you know, and we're very comfortable with the community we're living. Everything was like perfect. And she says, no, I don't want to see it. I said, why? You want to stay where we live? She said, no. I said, do you want to move to Canada, back to Canada? Which I knew she would. I said, no. So what do you want to do? She said, why don't we move to Israel? Back to Israel. She's also Israeli originally. Okay. And both of us looked at each other and said, oh my God, what a...
Was that on the map? I mean, had you discussed it?
Never.
Never?
Well, we talked many times. You know, every Israeli says, one day, you know, we move to... But everything, you know, my business was running, the kids were happy, community is good.
Move to Israel.
Everything is good. And all of a sudden, the idea of moving back to Israel, we both looked at each other and we said, why aren't we... Yeah, let's move back to Israel. It was like this. No, it didn't take long. 3 months later, we're on a boat with all our house and all our contents and cars were on a boat.
3 months?
3 months. A week after that happened, my wife flew to Israel. find a house, rented a place.
Oh my God.
And came back, and that's it. We packed our life and we moved to Israel.
Amazing.
But the interesting thing is that it was like totally uncalled for. Totally, everything was like, our life was in good, like there was no need to move.
I mean, you're the type of person that takes decisions, right, rash decisions, and just decides something.
Everybody said, are you...
Architect,
Are
careful
you
planner.
a little... Yeah, you know... Check it out, investigate.
Slowly.
See, let the kids finish school first.
Right.
Nothing. It was almost like a rush move, בחיפזון.
And it almost sounds like there was like a string.
So I'll tell you.
Like something
years
pulling.
later, I'm looking back at that moment.
Yeah.
And I know, I believe 100% that Rabbi Nachman is the one that planted the seed. It was totally... you came to visit me in Uman? Okay, I'm gonna.
I have plans for you.
I have plans for you, and because it was totally uncalled for, and today, from the moment we landed in Israel, it's like we keep on asking, what took us 40 years to do this? Like
amazing.
We're so happy here. We're so
like you know, like what? How could we not have moved?
Exactly.
How could we not have moved?
And then, of course, comes the whole story of Shakuf and this program, but that we'll talk about.
I just...
Now that I shared all the story,
right.
I want to hear your story.
I'm just thinking about all of the things that you've said. It's just sort of like, you know, a person grows up in a certain way, you know, everything is calculated, everything is planned out, everything is careful.
And everything is good.
And everything is good.
It's good.
Right, it's not like you were running away from anything.
Suffering. I wasn't, the opposite.
And then sort of like, all of a sudden sort of like, you give the keys over to somebody else.
It's amazing. It was like totally not rational.
I mean, I know we haven't talked so much about Shakuf and about what's going on here, but just to kind of like, you know, and also, I think I find that myself identifying with this a lot. Just the idea that perhaps Hashem has a plan for me, that it's not exactly how I thought it. You know, I mean, for me, you know, someone who grew up in a very sort of also planned out, you know, academic, you know, I'm a doctor, you know, you go through, you know, college, you get into university, you go through university, you get to medical school, everything has, you have your life planned out until the age of who knows what by the time you're 5, you know, the idea, my father's a doctor, you know, so the idea that like maybe, and you see this, you know, in Israel, a lot of people, like, you know, the idea that like my life maybe isn't meant to be planned out all in advance.
Right.
That like somehow I need to have Hashem in the picture.
Right. Yeah, totally. Totally. It was all of a sudden a new direction. Like totally, it was very comfortable not to do it.
Right.
You know, the natural,
rational thing. The rational thing.
Continue. You have friends. You feel like everything is working. Like why? All of a sudden, I wasn't 20 years old.
Right, I know.
All of a sudden, I was, this is 6 years ago, so I was 57 years old.
Oh my God.
And start a new life.
Ridiculous.
In Israel. Like
unheard of.
Unheard of. And again, from the moment we landed until now, every day, we bless the moment that that decision came. And today, that's how I feel. I feel that the beginning, that connection with Uman, as uncomfortable as it was, Rabbi Nachman was in the picture. Somehow the planted of that thought came from somewhere else. It couldn't come from our head.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I think, what for me, as somebody who grew up mostly religious, religious home, day school, New York, yeshiva high school, and, Israel was definitely on the map.
Right.
I'm not going to, Israel, I was here for a year after high school in yeshiva. And Israel, when we got married, my wife and I got married, we were both professionals. I'm a physician, she's a veterinarian. So, we say when the kids are sick.
Where are you from?
Originally from Boston.
Okay.
And, I was going to say, we say that when the kids are sick, I'm supposed to take care of them. And when they act like animals, that's my wife's job.
Nice. You took roles.
Right. So, Israel was definitely on the map. But also, when I think back to coming and making Aliyah, I think it's a very common experience for people that are here. It wasn't rational.
Right.
I was on faculty at Harvard Medical School. and I had a good position, a respectable position. I had a good career ahead of me, you know, making a good salary, making a good living. And my wife says to me one day, we're going to refurnish our house, okay? We're going to refurnish our house. We weren't going to move. We're going to like put in, you know, something on the third floor.
House, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting, you know, like Rabbi Nachman says that Yaakov, which we're talking about, you know, in this week of Sfirat HaOmer, as that we should get to the point of bayit. We work so much here on Shekuf on Shalom bayit. So when you start focusing on the physical bayit, maybe in Chutz La'aretz, Hashem says, hello, hello.
That's not a bayit.
Right, that's not a bayit. That's not a bayit. But anyway, so we were thinking about putting on an addition. It was, you know, I don't know, thousands of dollars. My wife says to me, you know, why don't we just take that money and move to Israel? And we were thinking about moving to Israel, but it wasn't like, and I was just like, I feel like, I said to her, I look at her and I said, I remember where we were. I said, okay, giddy up, let's go.
Similar reaction.
Yeah, huh? I'm just like, my wife wants to go to Israel, and let's go. And from there, like you said, like since we've gotten into Israel, we've been here, I think 8 or 9 years, I never would have drawn up the script this way. Yeah. Like I never thought it was going to turn out this way. I had no idea what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this. And there were so many times, you know, where you feel like, you know, Hashem is just pulling you along. Like you think that things should be a certain way.
It's almost like you let go of control. Something else is now leading you. You know, it's like it's not my decision. Something else. I have a partner. I have a partner who really knows what's good for me. Although it doesn't make sense, but you let go of control. You let go of what I think is right to do. You know, it's
so interesting. You know, I think the way that I certainly grew up, you know, the certain type of approach to Yiddishkeit and approach to the Torah, you know, I think that's something that was a struggle. Yeah. You know, you're not going to tell me what to do. You know, the rabbi's not going to tell me what to do. You know, if I want to talk in shul, I'm going to talk in shul. If I want to, if I'm gonna cut corners here, then I'm gonna do it. You know, it's nice to be religious, enjoyable to have Shabbat. That's how I grew up. But if I want to do something, when it comes down to the bottom line, paychecks, I'm gonna do it. And I think that perspective is.
So we ended up both in Israel after this type of
right.
A process. And so tell me a little bit how from landing in Israel you ended up here. You ended up in Shekuf, in this program that we're in.
So I think that it was certainly a number of different coincidences, the things that happened along the way. But since we showed up in Israel, I was always looking for spirituality. I was always looking to work on myself. But at some point, and it was also in terms of my age, when I was getting closer to 40, I sort of felt like there was something really seriously missing. Mm. I felt like, for myself, like I wasn't as connected as I wanted to be to all the people in my life. Right. I wasn't as connected as I wanted to be to myself. I didn't really know what I wanted. I was too busy doing it and not enough thinking. And I was not connected maybe as much as I wanted to be to my kids or to my family, to my spouse. And, people started speaking in Israel, which I never heard in the States, about Rabbi Nachman and about Breslov.
Oh, so you also, before landing in Israel, you had no connection with...
It's interesting. I always remember my father had on his shelf an English Rabbi Nachman book from one of the translations of English institutions, but I didn't even know who Rabbi Nachman was. It was like, something about fire. I had no idea. Wow. And even in Israel, like I had no idea. The word Ummah, I didn't even know what that, all of that, nothing. I never opened up a Breslov book, never. And I started to hear lectures about things that were important to me, whether it was, Shalom Bayit, working on my Shalom Bayit, working on my parenting, and working on myself, coming over, cravings and desires, and it all sort of kind of came together.
What, in books or?
In books and in lectures and
went
tapes.
Wow.
Listen to like tapes and things like that. Friends, neighbors and things like that, that passed around to me. I'm like, this is finally Torah that's not only like, giving me a vort on the Parsha, it's also something which actually can change my life. And I was seeing how, listening to small snippets here and there, I was like, maybe I should be a little bit more sensitive. Maybe I should be a little bit more open. And then when I heard about Shakuf, that it was like a workshop that was meant to work on yourself, it was really, at the time during Sfirat HaOmer, a number of years ago, and I thought to myself, I'm tired of getting to Rosh Hashanah every year and asking Hashem to forgive me for the same old things.
Oh, wow.
It's like year after year, I go through the year, and it comes, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and I'm writing down the same list of things. I'm like, I'm getting older. It's just enough already.
Wow.
Just enough already. I'm tired of same thing, and I'm feeling bad about myself, not knowing how to get out of it, not knowing how to stop getting angry, all of the different problems that, the challenges that I was having. And this sort of sounded like, maybe this could help.
Wow.
But I had no idea what I was in for.
Right.
Zero. I mean, I remember showing up the first day, and there's this room of people who didn't look anything like I should have thought that they should have looked. And I was sitting in, and I said to myself, at the break, I'm leaving. At the break, I am leaving. This is not for me. I don't know who. And as things went on, but also the words that were being said, the openness, the music, the whole thing, I felt myself totally connected.
Wow.
I remember at the very end session, the end of the very first session that I was here, the first 2-hour session that I was here, I'm an oncologist to take care of cancer patients.
Right.
And when I see a patient after the first consultation, they always say to me, so, what's going to happen? Am I going to get better, doc? Am I going to get better? And there's this pressure, give me an answer. And I felt like at the end of that first session, I thought to myself, now I know how my patients feel.
Wow.
I wanted to know, am I going to get better? Am I going to finally fix all of this?
Right.
And I'm still here. I'm still working on it. Still working on it.
Wow. Beautiful. My experience on the first class, or the first session of the Shakuf Sdna workshop was very similar. The minute I walked out, it was still in that basement.
Yeah, me too.
The minute I walked down there, I said, "What am I doing
Whoa.
here?" I'm also don't look exactly like a typical Braslov Hasid, Payas, and I was. And I said, "What am I doing here? I don't belong here.
Tell me about it.
Look how I dress. They don't dress like I felt
Right.
really."
Right.
But then it took. Also, I think the first session was I was a little uptight, but after 1 or 2 sessions, as soon as people started to talk, doesn't matter how they're dressed, doesn't matter where they're from. Everybody's problem is so similar.
Well, that's weird. Okay, I have to ask you about this.
Yes.
I mean, you've been around for a while.
Yeah.
How could it be that, most of the time when you want to go to a group session, you want to be with people that see the same way as
Right.
you, that have gone through similar experiences. How can you explain that, you sit next to some guy who grew up in Mea Sharim, and there's another guy who grew up in a kibbutz who's not even wearing a kippah.
Right.
How do you explain how it works like that?
I don't know how to explain it. I just feel that the whole process of Shakuf goes so much deeper than the outside layers and lies and potential things that we go through. That when you go to the core, really deep inside, we're so similar. You know? So it takes a little bit of time to be able to separate what you see and what you feel and what you smell and what you but the minute you go to that inner part of a human being, we're all so similar. We all have similar fears and similar struggles and similar doubts and inside.
Right.
I think that was the beautiful thing that I experienced originally in Shakuf, is the fact that forget about the outside. Let's start internalizing, introspection, and deeper. And as soon as you go deeper, you understand that there's much deeper, and you go deeper again, and then you see, wow, we all have similar things, and it doesn't matter how we look, it doesn't matter where we dressed, and we have so many similar things that we need to work on.
I say that Rabbi Nachman is like, he's the big doctor. You know, the big doctor, there's Hashem, but he's the one that gives all this wisdom, brings down Hashem's wisdom to a level that we can understand. That we can actually work with it. And I've seen this so many times, like exactly what you're describing. You know, there's a guy that comes in, and unfortunately one of the issues that I'm still trying to work on very hard is to not be judgmental.
Right.
And to not, you know, sort of see somebody, characterize them, put them in a box, and make a judgment. Right. And there, you know, I remember just recently, so many guys, he starts speaking. I'm thinking to myself, I don't need to listen to this guy because he's got nothing that I can. And he starts to speak, and you just see his heart. Yeah. You mamash see his heart opening up, and you know, everyone has. You know, that was the other thing I think that was very important for me, like to understand that. Whoa, everyone has challenges at home. Right. Everyone has challenges with their kids. Everyone has challenges with their boss. You know, I'm not alone.
Everybody has challenges with themselves.
Yeah.
Which is, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like
everybody.
Everybody.
Even him. Even me. And here's someone coming along that's saying, there are ways to deal with it.
Right.
All of that pain that you're feeling, you don't have to go it alone.
Right.
I mean, I think, or also the sense of camaraderie, the friendship that we have here is something so special.
The friendship, like that support system that you have from one another, not only in the Sadna, but the fact that you meet them outside the Sadna and meet one-on-one.
Small groups
and the one-on-one sessions that we have.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a connection. You build a trust and a connection with people here.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself like actually able to listen to people, you know, be interested in them.
Right.
Be focused on what they're interested in talking about.
Right.
And that was not me. You know?
Yes. So,
well, I mean, I think
that was a good intro.
Yeah.
We should maybe in the future continue to talk about maybe a little deeper into the process of what we went through in Shakuf.
Yeah, for sure. And also just give people, we want to give people just a sense of, you know, what's out there.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
Thank
you, Avi.
Wow.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay.